Galen, Halloween is a Celtic holiday, so we're both celebrating our heritage today.
Oh my God, we are.
Yeah.
What are you doing for Halloween?
I'm going to jump some bonfires.
What's the most Celtic thing we can do in New York City?
I think we could probably find like a druid ceremony in New York City that we could go to. Holler at us, Druids of New York.
Hello, welcome to the 538 Politics Podcast, and happy Halloween. I'm Galen Druk, and we're actually going to have some fun today for the holiday. Yeah. We are going to play a game for Halloween. It's called Buy, Sell, Hold.
Or I'll egg your house.
Yes, that's the fourth option. In case you are unfamiliar with this game, we throw caution to the wind and make our own judgments about the odds listed in the forecast. Essentially, we're going to pretend that we're the Scottish teens on Predict It. And here to do that with me are senior politics writer Claire Malone. Hey, Claire.
Hey, Galen.
What are you being for Halloween?
I guess I'm dressed as a witch with a bee. I don't know.
And managing editor Micah Cohen.
Hello.
How's it going? What's your costume?
Generic white dude.
Middle management.
Yeah, middle management.
I'm kidding. Mike is in charge.
It's a little too on the nose.
Notably, Nate is not here. If you listened to last week's Model Talk, you know that he said that he doesn't have any opinions about the forecast outside of what's listed on the site. So we are going to take the opportunity to share those opinions without that adult supervision.
I gotta say, this is a plug for last week's Model Talk, where Nate just answered reader questions with the same disdain that we have all come to know and love of his Twitter presence.
But Nate is here in the form of the model.
Yes.
Nate is the model, and the model is Nate.
So think of this as you guys arguing with Nate. He can't respond. You can say whatever you want.
This will be great.
So here's how we're going to do this. Today, we're looking at just the Senate, and we're going to focus in on the likelies, the leans, and the toss-up races. And the way this works is I'm going to give you the odds of the leading candidate, and you can hold right where they are. You can buy if you think their chances are actually better than what we have listed, or you can sell if you think their chances are worse. And perhaps we'll get to the House in a future episode, but let's begin with the overall odds of Republicans keeping the Senate. So we show Republicans in the classic forecast as having a 6 in 7 chance of keeping their majority. Claire, buy, sell, or hold?
I always get confused by this game. Buying means I think that's the right rating.
No. Buying means I think there's a better... So let's use an example. There is a 3 in 4 chance that Micah will be better at this game than Claire. Buy means I actually think there's a better chance than that Micah will be better at this. Sell means, no, I think the chances are worse than that. Hold means, no, that's perfectly exactly right.
Okay.
So the classic forecast gives Republicans a 6 in 7 chance of keeping their majority. Where are we going with this?
I'm going to buy. I think there's an even better chance than 6 and 7.
Do you want to back that up with something?
I think a number of races have tightened in states that are favorable to Republicans. So somewhere like Missouri. I'm curious about Montana for some reason, even though we've got John Tester with the 5 and 6 chance of winning. I'm not totally sure about that. I think Democrats are likely to lose Nevada. I'm a little bit I think maybe there's some stuff that could be going on that we're just not getting in
right,
polls.
And this also isn't win a bunch of seats. It's just hold steady either where they are or even lose one seat, because then they'd still, you know, it'd be 50-50 and Pence could break it. So what about you, Micah? Buy, sell, hold on 6 in 7 chances Republicans keep their majority.
So I think Claire makes a good case. I actually am going to sell for the mirror reason, which is what Claire's getting at is there is this weird divide. There are however many Democrats in red states, incumbent Democratic senators, Montana, North Dakota, Missouri, Indiana. And there's kind of this weird split where Tester, according to the polls, looks really safe. Not really safe, but somewhat safe. Sherrod Brown in Ohio looks really safe. Donnelly in Indiana seems pretty safe. But then Heitkamp in North Dakota, her polling has gotten much worse. Claire McCaskill in Missouri, as Claire mentioned, that race has tightened. So it's sort of the sell on this is it's actually really rare for an incumbent senator to lose in a wave year for their party.
Oh, okay. So you're making the bet that McCaskill will be bolstered.
Yeah, so my sell would be, hey, maybe actually all this polling showing McCaskill in trouble, Heitkamp losing, maybe that's off. And the historical norm, which is incumbent senators win when it's a good year for their party, holds true. That's kind of like, that would be step one in Democrats winning the Senate. It's not enough on its own. Then they would have to win, Nevada, Arizona, and then hold Florida, win Texas. So I guess what I would say is my sell isn't so much that I think Democrats are going to win the Senate. I think that's very unlikely. But I just think maybe it's a little more likely than 1 in 7 if these red state Democrats are actually doing a little bit better than the polling suggests. But the opposite also might be true, which is it's totally possible, as Claire says, that actually these red state Democrats are doing worse than we think because this historical norm, which factors into the model, isn't true this year, and partisanship will reign and they'll lose.
I think we gave good opposite answers.
That's the difficulty or fun when you have a bunch of close races, right? It's kind of going to break maybe one way or the other.
That we don't know the answer.
Notice that neither of us held, though, which means that we both think Nate is wrong. Nate, a.k.a. the model, is wrong.
Okay, let's get into the specific races. There is only one race right now that the classic forecast shows as a toss-up. Are you looking at it on your screens right now, or can you guess?
Can you pull it up on the projector, please?
Nevada.
Incumbent Republican Dean Heller has a 3 in 5 chance of winning in Nevada. Buy, sell, hold.
I'm going to sell that. I think his chances are worse than that. Slightly worse.
I guess this fits your overall theory of the Senate map, right?
Yes. I think, partly, but also no, it actually fits Claire's vision of the Senate map, I'm now realizing. If our operating assumption is that partisanship is more powerful this year than historically it's been, and incumbency is less powerful this year than historically it's been, then those red state Democrats would lose, but then Heller would also lose.
Yeah.
Because Nevada's a swing state, and Heller's an incumbent.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide whether or not to hold. I think I'm going to hold because... Okay, so we give Heller a 3 in 5 chance. It's a really close race, obviously, because you just said it was a toss-up. I think the weird thing here with this race is, so obviously Nevada went blue in 2016. Dean Heller had some public tussles with Trump, which kind of made him a weird candidate early on in the cycle. But the thing about Jackie Rosen is that she's relatively new. She was elected in 2016. No one's ever talking about Jackie Rosen, it's a...
That's true. She hasn't really become a personality in the way some other people have.
Right. And
she's not quite a Beto O'Rourke.
And I just think that, so in the governor's race, it's also a toss-up.
It's almost the exact same.
Which I think is
supports a hold.
Yeah. It's just an interesting state this year. I tend to think Heller will eke it out just because he's the name in that race and Rosen isn't, but I don't feel confident enough in either direction to disagree with Nate the model. Partly
supporting my sell, our deluxe forecast, which factors in experts ratings, has Heller as a 55% favorite. Mm-hmm. Classic has him as a 59% favorite. So a slight sell on my part.
Fair enough. Okay, we also have one lean Republican seat, according to the classic model right now, which is about midday on Wednesday. North Dakota. Republican challenger Kevin Cramer has a 3 in 4 chance against Heidi Heitkamp. Of course, a race that we've been watching pretty closely over the past few weeks. Buy, sell, hold.
I'm going to buy that puppy.
Buy that.
Buy that. I think Heitkamp's in real trouble.
Real trouble. How about you, Micah?
Sell.
I'm trying. Are you doing this on purpose?
He's doing the incumbency thing.
Yeah, I have to have a consistent...
Yeah. So to poke holes in your, in your incumbency thing, I mean, we are not getting any data or, frankly, good news from an anecdotal sense from the Heitkamp camp. I mean, she had that really messy situation where she had this ad where she released the names of sexual assault survivors without their consent, in addition to her Kavanaugh vote, in addition to the red climate of the state. That's a really uphill fight for her. What's the Democratic line? She's going to get out the vote in the last week. You think that's...
No, I think, look, if you want to explain why Heitkamp is having more trouble than Tester or Donnelly, then Well, one, just as an aside, is it a total coincidence that Heidkamp and McCaskill
They're women.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I was going. It's
Gail and I were actually talking about this right before the podcast about how it's interesting how these red state races have really tightened on these two women, Claire McCaskill and Heidi Heidkamp. And it made me think, I've been reading Identity Crisis by John Sides, Michael Tesler, and Lynn Vavreck, which is a look back at basically the dynamics of the 2016 election. And it talks a lot about Clinton's campaign and trying to gin up support through essentially gender identification, and how that, she did just as well with women as Obama had. There wasn't really a lot of change, but she lost huge numbers of men. That's why we had a historic gender gap. And I keep on thinking in these political situations that make people remember, oh, she's a woman, and maybe she thinks differently about politics than I do, even if she says she's a moderate, or she says she's an independent voter. And I think it's really interesting to watch in these final couple weeks how these two women in red states have how their campaign dynamics have shifted.
And to your point, there's research that shows that women are perceived as more liberal than men,
regardless of their actual policies.
Exactly. Right. So if you're running in a red state, that's a problem. But look, like Heidkamp beat her polls in 2012. I think in 2012, she was the only underdog in our forecast that won. There might have been one other one, but we had her with like a 9% chance or something in 2012, and she ended up winning. Two, the only recent polls we've gotten there are like Republican-leaning pollsters or Republican partisan pollsters. So it's like, I don't think we have that good of a read on the race. Do I think she's a favorite? No, but maybe I'd give her like a 2 in 3 chance rather than a 3 in 4 chance.
All right, so we're going to move on to our lean Democratic races. First off is Arizona. We gave Democrat Kyrsten Sinema a 5 in 8 chance of winning there. I think it's back to you, Micah. Buy, sell, hold.
Sell. So 5 in 8, we have her as a 62% favorite. I think it's probably a little closer. To 50-50. Yeah. Arizona has gotten more purplish, but it's a state where Trump support is still relatively high. I think it's a bit closer to 50-50.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of these.
We can agree.
I know. I'm looking at our polling page, and I'm looking at the polls that came in from Arizona over the last couple of days, and a couple have Sinema up +4, +6, but then there's some +2 McSally. So I think you're right that it is close.
The polling has been kind of a little bit all over the place. I mean, it's a close race, so you would expect polls to come out showing either candidate ahead, but it's like R+1, D+5, D+3, R+2, R+2, D+7.
And that was one of the races that, we've been talking since the primary about how it seemed like Kyrsten Sinema was doing well, but then maybe after the primary is over and McSally's no longer running against Kelly Ward and Joe Arpaio, that it would go closer towards a toss-up. I think that's maybe what we've seen.
Yeah, definitely Republicans have coalesced behind McSally. This race has so much more polling than North Dakota. That's weird.
Is it?
I also think that
maybe
people have stopped polling North Dakota because they think that
it's over.
It's over.
Ooh.
But I agree that I think Sinema still has a really good chance at pulling it out. But I would agree with Micah that it's, given the environment of Arizona, of the Arizona electorate, it's probably closer.
Let's move to Florida, where Democrat Bill Nelson has a 5 in 7 chance of winning that race. So a little bit better than Kyrsten Sinema, not by much.
I'm going to sell.
You're going to sell?
I think it's closer.
So Nelson has lower than a 72% chance of winning.
Yeah.
Even with Gillum on the ticket, we get that question all the time from Model Talk. Like, aren't the candidates going to ride the coattails of the more popular one? And
Yeah. I think my general vibe, if Micah has had a line in this thing of incumbency, I guess mine is like, these are close.
No, they are. There are a lot of close races.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I do think Gillum, I guess Gillum has had a pretty good week in the last week too.
Yeah.
With those debates against DeSantis. And so just for people, so we can spell out the theory, Andrew Gillum, who is black, might turn out and energize a lot of constituencies who will vote down ballot Democrat and therefore vote for elderly white man, Senator incumbent Bill Nelson, who is not particularly showboaty and not particularly a face that you would see in the news a lot. I mean, versus Rick Scott, the governor, who's been kind of out there with hurricane stuff. But again, it's like Florida's purple, and Florida's a big state. I would say it probably is the Democrat, but like I'm going to be safe and say let's sell in order to get closer to 50%.
I'm buying.
There you go.
Here's my argument. One, I sort of do buy the Gillum argument, even though if you look at governor results and Senate results, they don't march in lockstep, right? There were some states in 2016 that had like 40 percentage point gaps between the margin of the governor's race and the...
Oh, and that'll happen again this year, like in Massachusetts, in Maryland, maybe even in Wisconsin.
Exactly. So like, despite what some people might think, voters are perfectly capable of differentiating between two candidates and two races. I just think that, I guess I am operating under the theory that Democrats, particularly incumbent Democrats, are going to outperform their polls a little bit on Election Day. I think that is my operating theory. So in Florida, I would expect Nelson to be a little safer. We have him right now winning by like 4 points. You know, maybe he wins by 5 or 6. I don't think he's an overwhelming favorite, but, you know, I'd probably say maybe his chances are 3 and 4 thereabouts rather than 5 and 7.
All right, we are going to continue this game of buy, sell, hold in a minute with the other lean Democratic races. But before we do that, let me tell you that today's podcast is brought to you by Casper Mattress. Casper helps you get the best night's sleep, period. Switching to Casper is a no-brainer, and once you try it, you will never go back. Casper is a high-quality mattress at an affordable price. Sleep cool and comfortable every night thanks to the unique combination of foams that provide the right pressure relief and alignment. Especially now as fall arrives and the weather shifts, it's a tricky time for temperature control. But Casper will keep you comfortable no matter the season. Casper ships right to your door for free in a small, how did they even do that sized box. They'll even pick it up for you if you don't love it and refund you everything. From its engineering to its packaging to letting you try it for 100 nights. It's no wonder Casper has over 35,000 5-star reviews of all of their products across Casper, Google, and Amazon. Sleeping on a mattress is the best way to try it, so put Casper to the test in your own home for 100 nights risk-free. Go to Casper.com and use code POLITICS for $50 towards the purchase of select mattresses. That's Casper.com, code POLITICS, and get $50 toward the purchase of select mattresses. Again, that's Casper.com/politics. Terms and conditions apply. Let's continue our conversation about the lean Democratic races. We've got 2 left. There are 4 overall. And next is Missouri, where Claire McCaskill has a 3 in 5 chance of winning. We've already talked about this race a little bit. I think it's to you, Micah. Buy, sell, hold.
He's going to buy.
Yeah, so if I'm going to be consistent, I sort of have to buy. I'm honestly a little torn between the operating assumption for my buys and sells of being incumbent Democrats overperform or like the partisanship of the state prevails. And if I were going by partisanship of the state prevails, I think I would sell this. Missouri has gotten much redder. Claire McCaskill has won 2 elections already. She didn't get lucky. She both got lucky and ran really good campaigns and was super smart about it. But there's not, Josh Hawley is not Todd Akin. That said, like 3 and 5 isn't that good of a chance. We have Hawley with a 40% chance of winning. So you know what? I'm going to hold.
Claire? Claire wants to hold too.
No, I'm going to sell.
You're going to sell?
Just to spice it. Yeah, I'm going to say it's, Jesus, it's like minuscule at this point. But I'm going to sell just to say, like, yes, it's a very close race. I think let's infer some stuff from things that Claire McCaskill has said over the past couple days, referring to Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren as crazy Democrats. Gee, I wonder who she's trying to appeal to with that. And maybe that says, like, oh, they're feeling the hot breath of Josh Hawley on their necks.
No, and to support Claire's argument, we have Missouri as 19 points more Republican-leaning than the country overall.
Pretty red.
That's pretty red. Also, McCaskill is a 60% favorite in our classic forecast. She's a 53% favorite in our light forecast, which is basically just the polls, right? And she's a 55% favorite in our deluxe forecast. So our classic forecast is the most optimistic for McCaskill. So I'm going to change my answer from hold to sell to agree with Claire.
I like watching you back into that.
No, I'm going to go buy.
You're going to buy.
To be consistent. I have to be consistent.
So does this get at, I saw you getting in some arguments on Twitter about which regions states belong in. And so maybe how you feel about Claire McCaskill's chances has to do with whether or not you think Missouri is in the South or in the Midwest.
No one thinks Missouri is in the South. It's obviously in the Midwest.
Isn't that how we considered it in a piece this past week?
That's obviously wrong. Missouri is obviously in the Midwest, and anyone who says otherwise is a fucking idiot.
Okay, so
who goes to the Jersey Shore.
Oh my gosh.
No holds barred.
For a recent election update, we looked at how Democrats were performing by region, and if you're going to split the states up into regions, you have to make choices that one way or the other are going to offend people.
Tell me in what way Missouri is the South.
There are parts of
Now
Missouri...
people are going to get at me about the Civil War.
There are parts of Missouri that are culturally Southern, or like Pennsylvania.
Yes.
So Pennsylvania spans the Northeast, the South in central Pennsylvania, and then the Midwest in western Pennsylvania.
That's the thing is like, look, I'm from Pennsylvania. Politically and culturally, western Pennsylvania...
But you're not really. Philadelphia is like...
Politically and culturally, western Pennsylvania is the Midwest.
Right.
Politically and culturally, eastern Pennsylvania, particularly southeast Pennsylvania, is the Northeast.
It's New Jersey.
Then central Pennsylvania
Right.
You're
is
from
the
New
South.
Jersey, Micah.
No, I am not. Anyway, my point is just that you have to make choices. There's no perfect way to do it. So what we did is we used actually an old school NATE categorization.
Oh, well, then it must be right.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying that. So NATE's categorization, as you would expect, is a little more granular than just Midwest, Northeast. So he has prairie as part of the Midwest, which is Kansas, Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota. Rust Belt, part of the Midwest, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Indiana. And then North Central, which is the final part of the Midwest, which is Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa.
And so where's Missouri?
Oh, Missouri is, that's what we were talking about. Missouri is part of the Highlands, along with Tennessee, Kentucky, Arkansas, West Virginia, Oklahoma, which is in the South.
Okay, so I don't know that makes sense, but perhaps if you think Claire McCaskill's odds are not great, then Missouri becomes a little more culturally Southern, considering that you have a lot of women across the Midwest running for re-election in the Senate.